The arrival. Jason had always been someone who liked his space. He lived in a small, quiet apartment in the city where he could study and relax without distractions. But one afternoon, everything changed. He opened his front door to find a message pinned to the wall. It was from the college housing department. "Your new roommate is arriving today. Please welcome your guest, Zarnak from the planet Cylon." Jason blinked in disbelief. Zarnak, he whispered to himself. The name didn't sound familiar at all. He quickly scanned the letter, but there was no further explanation. What did planet Cylon even mean? Was this a prank? A student from another country, maybe. But why would they call it a guest? Just as Jason was about to shrug it off, a knock came at the door. He opened it, expecting to see a normal human student with luggage, but instead, standing before him was a tall figure with smooth, grayish skin and glowing blue eyes. The being had no hair and its face was almost featureless, except for two sharp, dark eyes that stared at him with curiosity. Jason stepped back, his mind racing. This wasn't what he expected. Was this some kind of joke? A new form of social experiment? Maybe a college project? Hi. Are you Zarnak?" Jason stammered, trying to sound calm. The creature nodded, its voice deep but oddly gentle. "I am Zarnak from Cylon. I am here to stay with you. I have been assigned as your guest." Jason couldn't believe it. His heart raced, and his mind buzzed with questions. Was this real? He had heard rumors about people from other planets visiting Earth, but he thought they were just stories. He'd never imagined he'd actually meet one. "Okay, come in," Jason said, almost automatically. His apartment felt smaller suddenly, with this alien standing in the doorway. Zarnak stepped inside. Jason noticed how graceful the creature moved, his limbs long and fluid. He was wearing a strange, form-fitting outfit made of some shiny material that seemed to shimmer in the light. The alien's voice was calm, but Jason couldn't shake off the unease settling in his stomach. "I'm here to learn," Zarnak explained as he looked around the apartment, seemingly taking in everything with fascination. "I have heard much about humans and their way of life. I wish to understand." Jason nodded, trying to appear relaxed, though inside he was anything but. Sure. I mean, there's not much to know about me. Just your average college student, trying to get through the semester." Zarnak turned his glowing eyes to Jason. "Tell me, human, what is it like to feel emotions? I have heard that humans experience them in many ways." Jason froze for a moment. This was definitely not what he expected from a roommate. He had imagined maybe a quiet foreign student who wanted to study, but an alien, and one who was so curious about emotions. Jason began, unsure how to answer. "I guess emotions are normal. Like we get happy, sad, angry, or excited. It's just part of life." Zarnak's eyes widened. "Fascinating. I must study these emotions. It is a crucial part of your existence, yes." Jason felt uncomfortable with the alien's intense gaze. "Well, yeah, it's pretty important for humans. But hey, maybe you should get settled in first. I'll show you where you'll sleep." Jason quickly showed Zarnak to the guest room, which wasn't much, but it would have to do. The alien didn't seem to mind. He was far more interested in exploring the apartment, touching objects, and inspecting things with a level of curiosity Jason had never seen before. "Is this your food?" Zarnak asked, picking up a half-eaten sandwich from the table. "No, don't eat that." Jason rushed over, grabbing the sandwich before Zarnak could take a bite. Zarnak stared at him, confused. "Why? It is food. I thought humans consumed it." Jason took a deep breath, realizing he needed to be patient. "Yeah, but not everyone's food is the same. That's just a snack. I don't think it's good for you." "Oh." Zarnak stepped back, his eyes focused on Jason, as if waiting for an explanation. The strange behavior continued as Zarnak spent the next few hours learning about Earth. He asked countless questions, not just about human emotions, but about everything: the weather, food, music, history, and even human relationships. Jason, still shocked, did his best to answer, though he found it hard to keep up with Zarnak's endless curiosity. As night fell, Jason sat in his chair, exhausted. Zarnak, however, didn't seem tired at all. He was still going through the books in Jason's shelf, occasionally reading aloud words he didn't understand. "Jason," Zarnak said after a long silence, "what do humans do when they feel attached to someone? When they want to be close to another?" Jason's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure how to respond. "Oh, well, that's kind of personal. But people fall in love, or they form close friendships. It's a way to feel connected to others." Zarnak was silent for a moment, then asked, "Can I experience this love?" Jason didn't know what to say. Was this alien really asking about love? What did Zarnak mean? Could he even understand something so complex? Jason glanced at the clock, ready to end the conversation. "Maybe we can talk more tomorrow." "Okay. We both need rest." Zarnak seemed satisfied with the answer, his glowing eyes dimming as he turned to the bed. "Yes. Rest. I will learn more tomorrow." But as Jason lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far stranger than he could ever have imagined. Something that could change everything. Would Zarnak's visit turn out to be a simple experiment or something more? Jason wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. He had a lot to learn about his alien guest, and even more about himself. The unsettling discoveries. The next few days were a blur. Zarnak seemed to adapt to his new surroundings with an ease that unsettled Jason. The alien was incredibly observant, constantly watching and asking questions. Jason found himself trying to keep up with the strange requests and the endless inquiries. Zarnak's curiosity about human life was both fascinating and overwhelming. But there was something else, something deeper, that Jason couldn't quite put his finger on. Zarnak had a particular interest in human biology, specifically the ways in which humans interacted with each other physically and emotionally. It was innocent enough at first, Zarnak asking about hugs, handshakes, and why humans exchanged such gestures of affection. But then, things started to get a little odd. One evening, as Jason was finishing his homework at the kitchen table, Zarnak walked over with a strange device in his hand. It looked like a small metallic scanner. Zarnak studied it for a moment, then looked up at Jason, his glowing eyes filled with curiosity. "Jason," Zarnak said in his usual calm tone, "I need to understand how your species reproduces. I have studied many creatures on Earth, but humans are unique." Jason's pen stopped mid-sentence. His heart skipped a beat. "Reproduce? What do you mean?" Zarnak tilted his head. "The act of creating new life. I have observed many species on Earth, but humans seem to have an intriguing process. Can you explain it to me?" Jason felt his face flush. He had never been this uncomfortable in his life. He stammered, trying to come up with a response. "Oh, well, it's not something I usually talk about, you know. It's a personal thing." Zarnak didn't seem to understand the discomfort. "But it is crucial. I must learn it to understand humans better." Jason swallowed hard. This was getting weirder by the day. Zarnak wasn't just asking casual questions anymore. He was probing into private, deeply personal areas of human life. Jason wasn't sure how much more he could handle. The next day, Zarnak's behavior became even stranger. He was no longer just asking about human emotions or relationships. He began taking notes on Jason's interactions with others. The alien seemed particularly fascinated by Jason's conversations with his friends, his text messages, and even the way Jason reacted to various situations. "Jason," Zarnak asked one evening, "why did you feel nervous when you spoke to your friend Maya earlier? She did not seem to cause you harm, yet your heartbeat increased. Why?" "Jason," taken aback. Try to explain. It's just how we react, Zarnak. When we feel nervous or uncomfortable, our bodies show it. It's a natural response to certain situations. Zarnak didn't seem satisfied with that answer. He wasn't just curious about emotions. He seemed to be obsessed with understanding the biology behind them. And every day, Jason found himself becoming more and more uncomfortable with the aliens' probing questions. It wasn't just the questions about reproduction that made Jason uneasy. There were other signs, little things that Zarnak did that made Jason question his true intentions. For instance, Zarnak would often stare at Jason for long periods, as if analyzing him, his gaze intense and unblinking. It was like Zarnak was trying to understand something deeper, something Jason couldn't grasp. And then, there was the night Jason came home to find Zarnak standing in the middle of the living room, holding a strange book. It was an old, leather-bound book that Jason had inherited from his grandfather. The pages were yellowed with age, and it contained stories of ancient human myths and legends. Zarnak looked up when Jason entered, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Jason, this book, it speaks of human pairing rituals. I have read about the ways your species bond with each other. This is very interesting." Jason felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. Zarnak seemed obsessed with human relationships, and the more Jason tried to pull away, the more the alien pushed. "What are you trying to say?" Jason asked, his voice shaky. Zarnak didn't respond right away. He simply stared at the pages of the book, his fingers tracing the words. "I must understand. Your species connects physically, emotionally, through this pairing ritual. I have read about it in many human texts. The bond between two individuals is very powerful, yes." Jason was too stunned to speak. He didn't know what Zarnak was really asking, but it sounded like the alien was more than just interested in human emotions. He seemed to be trying to figure out how to become part of them, to experience them in a way humans did. The next day, things got even more uncomfortable. Jason was in the kitchen, making some food, when Zarnak entered without warning, holding yet another device. This time, it looked like a small, handheld medical scanner. Zarnak seemed to be studying it intently, almost as if it were something that could help him understand human biology better. "I have been studying your species, Jason," Zarnak said calmly. "I must know more about how your body reacts in different circumstances. It is essential for my understanding of your emotions." Jason froze. This wasn't normal. He had always imagined his college roommate would be someone to share late-night study sessions with, maybe even become a friend. But now, Zarnak was crossing boundaries Jason wasn't comfortable with. "You need to stop," Jason said, his voice shaking. "I don't think this is okay anymore. You're invading my privacy." Zarnak paused, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly. "I am sorry, Jason. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable. I only wish to understand. My mission is to learn about your species, to learn about love." Jason could barely process what Zarnak was saying. Love. This was something deeper than curiosity. It was almost as if Zarnak wanted to experience human emotions in a way Jason couldn't fully comprehend. Jason took a deep breath. He didn't know what to do. Zarnak seemed to be harmless, but the more he learned about humans, the more Jason began to feel like there was something bigger at play here, something that wasn't just about understanding emotions. What if Zarnak wasn't just studying humans for knowledge? What if there was something else going on? As Jason lay in bed that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Zarnak had been quiet for hours, but Jason couldn't help but feel like the alien was still in the apartment, silently observing him, waiting for something. Jason couldn't figure out what Zarnak was truly after, but one thing was clear: this wasn't just a casual roommate situation. There was something bigger happening, and Jason was caught right in the middle of it. The truth unveiled. The tension between Jason and Zarnak grew heavier with each passing day. Every morning, Jason woke up to find Zarnak already deep in thought. sometimes scribbling notes, sometimes tanning himself with strange devices. There was something methodical about it all, as if Zarnak wasn't just studying Jason, but was slowly and carefully crafting some kind of plan. Jason was no longer sure what to make of the alien. Zarnak had crossed boundaries, asking more invasive questions and displaying an unnerving fascination with human biology and emotions. The questions had shifted from casual curiosity to something darker, more serious. Jason was scared, not just for his privacy, but for what Zarnak might be planning. One evening, after a particularly unsettling conversation about the bonding process between humans, Jason couldn't take it anymore. He needed answers. He had been avoiding the truth, but now it was time to confront Zarnak head-on. Something about the alien's behavior felt increasingly alien, more than just cultural curiosity. It felt like manipulation, something deeper, something Jason didn't fully understand. Jason had decided he would sit down with Zarnak, confront him about the questions that had been weighing on his mind. He couldn't keep pretending everything was normal. He wasn't sure what was happening, but he knew he was in over his head. As Jason entered the living room, he found Zarnak sitting on the couch, staring at the television. The screen was blank, but Zarnak was mesmerized by it, his eyes glowing faintly, his expression unreadable. It was as if he had been waiting for Jason. "Zarnak," Jason said, his voice trembling slightly. "We need to talk." Zarnak turned toward him, his face still as expressionless as ever. "What is it, Jason?" "I need you to stop. Stop studying me. Stop asking about human relationships. It's getting too weird. I don't understand what you're after." Zarnak's eyes narrowed, but his voice remained calm. "I am not trying to harm you, Jason. I only wish to understand. You are my first exposure to human behavior. I must learn everything." Jason's stomach twisted. "But you're not just studying me, are you? It's more than that. You keep asking about reproduction, about the ways humans bond. Why? What do you really want?" Zarnak didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood up, pacing around the room in his usual fluid motion. "You are not understanding the full scope of what I am doing here, Jason. My mission is not merely to study. I have been sent to do something far more important." Jason's heart began to race. He had a sinking feeling that he wasn't going to like what Zarnak had to say. "What do you mean?" Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zarnak turned to face him, his glowing eyes intense, burning with an emotion that Jason hadn't seen before. It wasn't curiosity this time. It was something else. Something darker. "I am here to learn how to bond," Zarnak said, his voice low. "Not just emotionally, but physically. You see, Jason, my species, the Xylons, do not experience emotions the way humans do. We do not feel love, attachment, or desire. We do not reproduce in the same way you do. My kind exists for the sake of knowledge, but that knowledge is cold. It is devoid of the warmth that you humans have. I have been sent here to learn how to connect." Jason froze, his mind reeling. "You're saying you want to learn how to feel, how to love?" Zarnak nodded, his voice more urgent now. "Yes, my species has studied many forms of life, but we have never understood your emotions. We have never understood the deep connection between two beings, the bond that comes from love, and the need to bond physically. The power of that bond. It is something my people seek, something we need." Jason felt a chill wash over him. He had known something was off. But this was beyond anything he had imagined. Zarnak wasn't just curious about human emotions. He wanted to experience them. But there was more to it. Much more. "Why me?" Jason's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this to me? I'm just a normal person. I'm not some experiment." Zarnak stepped closer, his eyes searching Jason's face. "Because, Jason, I need your help. I need you to teach me how to feel, to experience the bond that humans share. I cannot do this alone. You are the only human I have access to. You are the one who can help me." Jason took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. "So, all this time, you've been studying me so that you could— what? Use me to experience love. You've been using me as some kind of test subject." Zarnak's face softened, and for a moment, Jason almost thought he saw a flicker of genuine regret. "I did not mean to harm you, Jason, but you must understand. The need for this bond is not something I can ignore. My species is dying. We cannot survive without understanding what you humans have, without the ability to feel, to connect. We have no future." Jason's mind was spinning. This wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. It was a desperate plea from a species on the edge of extinction. Zarnak had come to Earth not to invade, but to learn how to feel, to understand what humans took for granted: love, affection, intimacy. But the more Jason thought about it, the more uncomfortable he became. This wasn't just about understanding human emotions. Zarnak was asking for something deeper, something that would change both of their lives forever. Jason swallowed hard. "But what if I don't want to help you? What if I don't want to be part of this?" Zarnak's eyes flickered with something that resembled fear. "You have no choice, Jason. I cannot leave. I have nowhere else to go. My people need this knowledge. And I need you." Jason felt a lump form in his throat. Zarnak was desperate. But was this really something Jason wanted to be part of? He had always imagined his college years as a time for learning, for meeting new people, for growing. But this was something far beyond his comprehension. Suddenly, Jason realized that his life, his future, was now intertwined with Zarnak's mission. There was no going back. He would either help the alien learn what it meant to be human, or risk losing himself in the process. But the more he thought about it, the more he wondered, was he helping Zarnak? Or was he just another test subject in a game that he couldn't even begin to understand? The temptation. Jason sat in silence, his mind racing. He couldn't believe what Zarnak had just revealed. The alien's words echoed in his ears. "I need you, Jason. You are the only one who can help me understand love." Jason had always thought his life was normal. A quiet college student, a few friends, the usual mix of classes, work, and occasional parties. But now his life had turned into something unrecognizable, something far beyond his control. Zarnak wasn't just his roommate anymore. The alien's need to understand human emotions had become an obsession, and Jason felt like a pawn in a game he didn't even understand. Days passed, but Jason couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time he turned around, Zarnak was there, quietly observing, making notes, running his strange devices. Jason's privacy was a thing of the past. What's worse, he felt the pressure mounting. Zarnak's desperation was palpable. The alien needed him, and Jason wasn't sure how to respond. It all came to a head one night. Jason had been studying late, trying to push thoughts of Zarnak's request out of his mind. He couldn't concentrate. It felt impossible to focus on his textbooks when he kept imagining the alien's gaze following him, waiting for the moment when Jason would finally give in. As he took a break to get a drink from the kitchen, he found Zarnak standing by the window, staring out into the night. There was an almost ethereal quality to the alien's posture, still, quiet, as though he were lost in thought, or perhaps lost in the vastness of space itself. "Zarnak," Jason called, his voice hesitant. The alien turned slowly, his glowing eyes meeting Jason's. There was something in his gaze that unsettled Jason, a deep longing that hadn't been there before. Zarnak stepped toward him, his movements smooth, almost hypnotic. "I have been thinking about what you said," Zarnak began, his voice soft. "You told me you did not wish to help, but I have come to realize that the bond we seek is not just one-sided. Perhaps you too can learn something from this." Jason frowned. "What are you talking about? I don't want to be part of whatever this is. I don't want to be some experiment." Zarnak took another step forward, his eyes never leaving Jason's. "It is not an experiment, Jason. I am asking you for something far more important. I am asking you for a connection, a chance to experience the deepest part of humanity, the part of you that gives meaning to everything. Love. Jason felt a chill run down his spine. He could feel Zarnak's presence closing in on him, the air around them charged with an intensity that he had never felt before. This wasn't just a request anymore. It was a plea. I can't, Jason whispered, almost to himself. I can't do this. You're asking me to give you something so personal, so intimate. Zarnak's expression softened, and for the first time, Jason saw vulnerability in the alien's eyes. I understand your hesitation, but I believe this is the only way. My people cannot survive without understanding this connection. Without it, we are cold, distant, alone. I am not asking for something shallow, Jason. I am asking you to teach me what it means to be alive in the truest sense, to feel as you do, to form a bond that transcends species. Jason's mind was racing. He had never been this close to Zarnak, and the alien's words were having an effect on him. It was as though a part of him, something he hadn't realized he was missing, was responding to the alien's plea. The desperation in Zarnak's voice, the way he spoke of love as if it were the key to survival, it was powerful, undeniably so. But Jason couldn't ignore the part of him that screamed this is wrong. For a moment, Jason felt trapped between two worlds. On one side, there was his humanity, his boundaries, his right to say no. But on the other, there was something about Zarnak's need, his longing for connection, that tugged at Jason in ways he didn't fully understand. It was as if the alien's loneliness was seeping into him, challenging everything Jason had ever known about love, about what it meant to truly connect with another being. I don't know if I can help you, Zarnak, Jason said, his voice shaky. This isn't what I signed up for. I'm not an experiment. I'm not some object for you to study. Zarnak's expression shifted. There was no anger, no frustration, just quiet understanding. I never intended to treat you as an object. But you must understand, Jason. What I seek is not just knowledge. It is the essence of what makes humans human. It is a bond so powerful, so deep, that it transcends even the coldest of beings. What I ask is not just about emotions. It is about survival. Jason swallowed hard, fighting the turmoil within him. Every instinct screamed at him to turn away, to protect himself, to push Zarnak out of his life before things went any further. But there was also a part of him, an undeniable, unexplainable part, that felt drawn to the alien. The alien was asking for help, not out of malice, but out of a genuine desire to experience something Jason had always taken for granted. Zarnak stepped closer, his voice soft, almost coaxing. I do not want to force you, Jason. I merely ask for your willingness. We do not need to rush. We can take it slow. But there must be trust between us. A connection. Jason felt a knot form in his stomach. He knew this was a dangerous path to go down. But somehow, he couldn't seem to pull away. The alien's words echoed in his mind. We can take it slow. The silence between them grew thick, heavy. Jason could feel the tension, the pull between them. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Zarnak's desperation, his plea, was like a force that made it hard for Jason to breathe. There was a temptation here, something that promised an understanding of something Jason had always taken for granted. But at what cost? I don't know, Jason whispered, feeling the weight of the decision crushing him. Zarnak's eyes softened, his voice barely a whisper. You do not have to decide now, Jason. Just know this. My need is real. And so is my gratitude for any help you can give. Jason stood frozen, caught between two realities, his world of normal human life, and this strange alien request that seemed to be pulling him into something far deeper than he ever imagined. Something he didn't yet fully understand. The air between them was electric, charged with emotions that Jason couldn't yet name. The temptation to take the alien's offer, to explore this connection, was strong. But Jason knew deep down that whatever decision he made next would change everything: his life, his relationships, and possibly even humanity's future. But for now, all Jason could do was stand there, lost in the complexity of the moment. The choice was his, and yet it felt as though the choice had already been made. The encounter. Jason couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped in a world he didn't fully understand. Each day, the pressure built up more. Zarnak's requests, his questions, his quiet but insistent presence. It was all becoming too much. The alien's search for human emotions, the quest for connection, had crossed into a realm that Jason wasn't ready to enter. And yet, he couldn't bring himself to completely reject Zarnak either. The line between right and wrong was blurring. Jason had always believed in the sanctity of human relationships: love, friendship, intimacy, all things that were supposed to come naturally, without coercion. But this situation was different. Zarnak wasn't coercing him, not in the traditional sense. The alien was simply asking, hoping, that Jason would help him understand a fundamental part of the human experience. It was late one night when the encounter finally happened. Jason had been in his room, pacing back and forth, trying to distract himself with his homework. He knew he couldn't keep avoiding Zarnak forever. It was clear that the alien's need for human connection was growing, and Jason wasn't sure how long he could hold off. The uncertainty gnawed at him, but as much as he feared what might happen, part of him couldn't help but wonder, could Zarnak really understand love, or was this just a manipulation, a misunderstanding of something so uniquely human? His thoughts were interrupted when he heard a soft knock at his door. "Jason," came Zarnak's familiar voice. "May I come in?" Jason hesitated. There was something in Zarnak's tone tonight, something different. It wasn't the usual polite request for information or curiosity. It was almost tentative, like the alien wasn't sure if he had crossed a line. "Yeah, come in," Jason muttered, though he wasn't sure if he was ready for this conversation. Zarnak entered the room slowly, his movements graceful as always. But tonight, his presence felt heavier. He stood in the middle of the room, watching Jason, as though he were waiting for something unspoken. Jason felt a strange sense of anticipation. "What's going on, Zarnak? Why are you so different tonight?" The alien's gaze softened, but there was an intensity in his eyes that Jason hadn't seen before. "Jason, I need to ask something of you, something I can no longer put off." Jason swallowed hard. The last few days had been filled with too many questions, too much confusion. Was this the moment Zarnak would ask him to go beyond curiosity and actually experience the connection he had been talking about? Was this the moment that Jason would have to make the choice? "I've been thinking about what you said," Zarnak continued. "You've told me that you cannot help me in the way I want. You've said that it's too personal, too intimate. But what if I told you that this connection is not just something I desire? What if I told you that this bond between us could benefit both of us?" Jason shook his head. "I don't understand. How could this bond benefit me? I don't even know if I can trust you anymore." Zarnak stepped forward, his gaze never leaving Jason. "Because, Jason, this is not about manipulation. This is about mutual understanding. If you help me experience human connection, it will help me learn, yes. But it will also show you something you may not fully understand yet, something that you are not yet aware you need." Jason took a step back. He didn't know what Zarnak meant, but the alien's words seemed to hold a weight that Jason couldn't ignore. What could he learn from this encounter? What was Zarnak offering that he hadn't considered? "I don't know what you're talking about," Jason said, his voice shaky. "This doesn't seem right. You're asking me to do something I don't feel ready for. And I don't even know what's going to happen afterward." Zarnak's eyes flickered with understanding, but they remained soft. "I understand your fear, Jason, but I promise you, this is not about harming you. I only want to understand, to feel as you do. I am not asking for something shallow. I am asking for a true connection." Jason's heart pounded in his chest. His body was telling him to run, to reject Zarnak's request, but there was another part of him, a deeper part, that was beginning to question everything. Could he really turn away from the alien's plea? Could he condemn Zarnak to remain a cold, disconnected being forever? You say that, but Jason's voice faltered. What if I can't help you? What if I can't give you what you're looking for? Zarnak took another step closer. What if you can, Jason? What if the answer lies within you? There was something so earnest in the alien's voice, so vulnerable, that Jason felt a tug deep inside his chest. The room seemed to close in around them, and all of a sudden, Jason's sense of the world felt smaller, more fragile. Zarnak was offering him a connection that Jason had always taken for granted. What if, in teaching the alien to feel, Jason would discover something about himself, something hidden beneath the surface? Please, Zarnak said quietly, his voice now laced with a softness Jason had never heard before. Give me the chance to understand. Not just for me, but for you as well. You may not see it now, but this will change both our lives. Jason's mind was in turmoil. He wasn't ready for this. This wasn't something he could just decide overnight. But Zarnak's plea, his sincerity, it all weighed heavily on him. Jason wanted to say no. He wanted to walk away and never look back. But the alien was asking for something deeper, something more than just knowledge or understanding. It was a bond, a connection, and it wasn't something Jason could easily dismiss. Are you sure about this? Jason asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Are you sure this is what you need? Zarnak's eyes softened, and for the first time, Jason saw a glimpse of what seemed to be genuine emotion, something not quite human, but undeniably real. I am sure, Jason. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. Jason took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. There was no turning back now. This was it, the moment where everything would change. Slowly, he nodded. Okay, I'll help you. Zarnak's face lit up, a mix of relief and gratitude crossing his features. Thank you, Jason. You will not regret this. We will both learn something powerful from this. But as Jason stood there, uncertain yet resolute, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. What was he getting himself into? Could he really help Zarnak experience the connection he so desperately sought? And if he did, would he be able to handle the consequences? As the tension between them grew, Jason realized that he was standing on the edge of something huge. The encounter had begun, but its consequences were still unknown. What awaited them both in the coming moments? And would either of them ever be the same again? The twist. The room was thick with tension. Jason stood before Zarnak, his decision made, but his heart still pounding in his chest. There was no turning back now. The alien's pleading had broken down the walls Jason had built, and now he was about to take the first step into an unknown territory. He had agreed to help Zarnak experience human connection. But what did that really mean? What would it do to both of them? Zarnak, sensing Jason's hesitation, took a step closer, his presence calming but intense. You made the right choice, Jason. We will understand each other now. You and I. We will connect in ways that transcend species. The experience will be profound. You will see. Jason looked at the alien, unsure of how to respond. He wanted to believe Zarnak, but there was so much uncertainty swirling inside him. This wasn't just about learning. This was about experiencing something intimate, something that felt far beyond his control. Zarnak's voice softened. Trust me, Jason. I know you are afraid. But this bond, it's not just for me. It's for you too. We are both in need of it. You seek something you cannot name, and I seek something that my people have never known. Jason swallowed hard, trying to grasp the enormity of what he was about to do. Zarnak's words had a way of making the alien seem so human, and yet the reality was stark. He wasn't just some foreign student looking for cultural experiences. Zarnak was a being from another world, asking for something deeper, something that, until now, had seemed impossible. Jason nodded slowly, unsure of where this journey would take him. "Okay, I'm ready." Zarnak smiled, a rare, almost shy expression, before reaching out. "The experience will begin slowly, Jason. You must be open to it. It will not be easy, but we will both learn." Jason took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle in his chest. What was he doing? What was he truly opening himself up to? As Zarnak closed the distance between them, Jason instinctively took a step back. The alien's touch was gentle, yet Jason could feel the strength behind it. Zarnak wasn't just trying to connect emotionally. He was trying to feel. His entire being seemed attuned to Jason, his energy pulsating in ways Jason couldn't understand. There was something magnetic, something foreign, pulling him in. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was a connection that Jason couldn't deny. But as the moments stretched on, something unexpected happened. Zarnak didn't immediately move closer. Instead, the alien paused, his expression changing. His eyes, those glowing, intense eyes, flickered with something Jason hadn't seen before: doubt. "I do not understand," Zarnak said, his voice tight. "I have studied humans for so long, but this is different. I do not know what I feel right now. It is not the same as what I have seen in your behavior." Jason blinked, confused. "What do you mean? You said this would work. You said we would connect." Zarnak seemed to hesitate. "Yes, but I am not experiencing what I expected. This bond, this connection, it is not as I imagined. It is not just about emotions. There is something more to it, something I did not account for." Jason felt a strange chill run through him. What was happening? Zarnak's words didn't make sense. The alien had seemed so confident in his understanding of human emotions. Why was this bond, this connection, suddenly so difficult for him? Before Jason could ask another question, Zarnak took a step back, his eyes narrowing in thought. "No, it is not you. It is me. I have been too focused on the physicality of human emotions, on the biological aspects. But now, I realize, it is something much deeper." Jason's mind raced. What was Zarnak talking about? The alien had come here with a mission: to understand human emotions, to experience love, to form a bond. But now he was saying it was more complicated than that. What had Jason gotten himself into? Zarnak's voice was quiet, almost regretful. "I thought that by experiencing this bond physically, I would understand what humans feel. But it is more than that. It is not just a biological connection. It is a spiritual one, a depth that I had not prepared for." Jason felt his heart skip a beat. "Spiritual," he echoed, confused. "What do you mean? This isn't just about emotions." Zarnak looked at him with a vulnerability Jason hadn't expected. "No, it is more. I thought I could bypass the complexity of human feelings, that I could reduce everything to biology. But love, connection, the bond you speak of, it is more than that. It is a mystery, a force that no logic can explain." Jason took a step toward Zarnak, his own confusion now mirroring the alien's. "So, you're telling me this connection is something deeper, something more than I can even understand?" Zarnak nodded solemnly. "Yes, I have realized that in my quest to understand, I overlook the essence of what it means to connect. It is not just about feeling emotions. It is about sharing something that transcends the physical, something that unites beings on a level beyond comprehension." The room felt heavy with the weight of this realization. Jason felt as though the ground beneath him had shifted, as if the entire foundation of the bond they had been trying to form had suddenly cracked open. The alien had come to him seeking a connection, but now he was revealing something even deeper, something that Jason had never expected to hear. Could it be true? Was the connection between them more than just the physical aspects Zarnak had studied? Was it, in fact, something Jason had taken for granted all his life, a deeper, intangible force that humans call love? Zarnak took a breath, his expression calm but resolute. "I have misjudged your species. I thought it was a simple matter of biology, but I see now that it is far more complex. What you call love, what you call connection, it is not something that can be studied or replicated. It is a mystery, and I am not sure I can ever truly understand it, no matter how much I try." Jason stood in stunned silence, trying to process the alien's words. The situation had taken an unexpected turn. Zarnak wasn't just asking for love. He was trying to understand something unexplainable, something that even Jason himself sometimes struggled to grasp. Was it possible that in the attempt to teach the alien, Jason had learned something far more important about the nature of human connection? "Maybe," Jason started, his voice trembling slightly, "maybe this is something you can never understand. Maybe it's something we're meant to experience, not explain." Zarnak's gaze softened, his expression full of thought. "Perhaps you are right, Jason. Perhaps love is not something to be understood. Perhaps it is only something to be felt." Jason looked at the alien, realizing how much both of them had changed in this moment. What had started as a simple request had evolved into something far more complicated, far more profound. The twist was clear now. This wasn't just a lesson in biology or emotional connection. It was about the very nature of what it means to be alive, to feel, to love. But as the room grew silent, Jason couldn't help but feel that this moment was only the beginning. The alien had come to Earth seeking answers, but what had he really found? And more importantly, what had Jason discovered about himself in the process? The decision, the weight of the moment settled in. The room was silent, the tension thick between Jason and Zarnak. The alien's revelation, about love, about connection, about the very essence of humanity, had shattered everything Jason had thought he knew. What began as an experiment, a simple study of emotions, had turned into something far more complex. A challenge of understanding, not just for Zarnak, but for Jason himself. Jason stood motionless, his mind swirling with the complexity of it all. Zarnak was no longer just a curious alien. He was someone searching for something Jason couldn't explain. The alien had come to Earth to learn, to understand human emotions, to feel what humans feel. But what had started as an academic mission had turned into a deeper, more profound exploration of the unknown. What did it mean to love? What did it mean to be truly connected to another being? Was this connection between him and Zarnak truly possible, or was it just a desperate attempt to bridge the gap between their two vastly different worlds? Zarnak looked at Jason, his eyes soft, yet filled with a quiet sadness. "I thought I could understand you, Jason. I thought that by experiencing what you call love, I would finally know what it means to be alive. But I see now that I have misjudged the depth of it all. This connection, this bond, it is not something that can be forced or even studied. It is something that exists in a place beyond our comprehension." Jason took a deep breath, his heart still pounding. He had been through so much in these last few weeks, so much confusion, so much fear. He had been drawn into something he never expected, something he never even knew was possible. And now, standing before Zarnak, he realized that this was the moment of truth, the moment when everything would change, for both of them. "I think," Jason began, his voice thick with emotion, "I think you're right, Zarnak. Maybe love isn't something that can be understood or even explained. Maybe it's just something that we experience, something that happens when two beings, two souls, find each other." Zarnak tilted his head, his eyes widening with something akin to awe. "You believe that?" Jason nodded slowly. "I do. I spent so much time trying to figure it out, trying to understand it, control it, like it's some puzzle that can be solved. But maybe it's not about understanding it. Maybe it's just about feeling it." For a long moment, there was only silence between them. Jason could see the change in Zarnak's expression. The alien had come to Earth seeking knowledge, seeking to understand the intangible, but in the process, He had uncovered something far more important than any textbook or experiment could have offered. Zarnak had begun to understand that love, the bond between two beings, couldn't be reduced to logic or science. It was a force, a mysterious energy that bound individuals together, not because they understood it, but because they felt it. Jason's thoughts drifted back to everything that had brought him to this moment. The strange, unsettling feeling he'd had when Zarnak first arrived. The sense that his life, his ordinary existence, had been upended by an alien whose questions had forced him to confront something deeper inside himself. Jason realized, with a sudden clarity, that the alien had unwittingly opened his eyes to something he had taken for granted. He had always thought he understood what love was. He had always believed that human connection was something simple, something easy to understand. But in the face of Zarnak's search for it, Jason had come to realize that love was far more complicated, far more mysterious than he had ever imagined. It was something that couldn't be explained, something that couldn't be defined by mere words or logic. It was something that had to be felt, experienced, lived. "I don't know what this means for us, Zarnak," Jason said softly, his voice quiet but resolute. "But I know one thing. I can't give you the answers you're looking for. I can't explain love to you. But I can show you how it feels. Maybe that's enough." Zarnak's eyes softened, a deep understanding crossing his face. "You would help me, even though you cannot give me the answers." Jason nodded, his heart beating faster now, a mixture of fear and hope swirling inside him. "I can't give you the knowledge you want, but I can share this with you, Zarnak. I can share what it feels like to be human, to love, to connect, to feel. Maybe that's all you need to know." Zarnak stepped forward, slowly, as if sensing the shift in their relationship. For the first time since he had arrived on Earth, there was no urgency in his movements. There was no sense of desperation. Instead, he simply stood before Jason, his expression peaceful, almost grateful. "I did not understand before," Zarnak said quietly. "But now I see. I understand that love is not a thing that can be owned or controlled. It is something shared between beings, something that connects them in ways beyond comprehension." Jason's chest tightened as he realized how far they had both come. What had started as an experiment in emotions had turned into something far more significant. Zarnak had come to Earth seeking knowledge, but in the process, Jason had found something too, a deeper understanding of the very thing that made him human. The silence between them stretched on, filled with the weight of everything that had been said, and everything that had been left unsaid. Jason could feel the connection between them, now stronger than ever. It wasn't about alien or human. It was about two beings, sharing something that no one could ever truly explain. For a long while, neither of them moved. And then softly, almost as if it were the most natural thing in the world, Jason reached out and placed his hand on Zarnak's. The alien's hand, warm and steady, wrapped around his, and for the first time, Jason felt something deeper than the fear and uncertainty that had consumed him. It was a feeling that transcended species, transcended logic, transcended everything. It was a bond. Jason didn't know where it would take them, or what the future would hold. But in that moment, he understood. Love, connection, the bond that existed between them. It was not something that could be defined by rules or science. It was simply something that was. It was felt, not understood. It was a force, an energy, and it had the power to change everything. And as they stood together, in silence, Jason realized that he had just helped Zarnak discover something far more important than he could have imagined. The profound, unexplainable nature of what it truly meant to be human. The decision had been made, and it was enough.